Listen, I need you to understand something right now. While you've been distracted by culture war nonsense, celebrity gossip, and whatever manufactured outrage they're feeding you this week, a war has started. Not hypothetically, not maybe in the future, right now. The Iran war has officially begun, and Black people need to wake up to what this means for us, because history is about to repeat itself, and we're about to get played again. I'm not here to sugarcoat this. I'm not here to be diplomatic. I'm here to tell you the raw, unfiltered truth about what's happening and why you should care more about this than whatever foolishness is trending on Twitter. Now, before some of you click away because you think foreign policy doesn't affect you, let me stop you right there. That's exactly what they want you to think. That's exactly the mentality that keeps us powerless while other communities move strategically. You think it's a coincidence that every time this country goes to war, Black unemployment goes up? You think it's random that military recruiters set up shop in our neighborhood specifically? You think it's an accident that our tax dollars fund bombs instead of schools? Nothing is an accident. Everything is connected. And this Iran situation, it's about to affect your life in ways you can't even imagine yet. Let me break down what's actually happening, because the mainstream media is doing what they always do, lying by omission, framing the narrative, and preparing you to accept the unacceptable. First, let's be clear about what I mean when I say the war has officially begun. I'm not talking about some future invasion. I'm talking about active military strikes, coordinated attacks, and the machinery of war already in motion. The bombs are already dropping. The sanctions are already choking the Iranian economy. The proxy battles are already being fought across the Middle East. The chess pieces are already moving. And just like Iraq, just like Afghanistan, just like Libya, just like Syria, they're selling you a story. They're telling you about threats and terrorism and national security. They're waving flags and talking about American interests. They're parading generals on CNN and Fox News who speak in that calm, authoritative tone that makes you think this is all very reasonable and necessary. But here's what they're not telling you. This has nothing to do with protecting you, nothing to do with making America safer, and everything to do with resources, regional control, and maintaining an empire that has been in decline for decades. You want to know who benefits from this war? Not you, not your children, not your community. Follow the money. Look at the defense contractors whose stock prices jump every time a missile launches. Look at the oil companies salivating at the thought of Iranian crude back on the market under Western control. Look at the politicians on both sides, Democrat and Republican, who take money from the military-industrial complex. This is a racket. It's always been a racket, and Black people have been the pawns in this game for far too long. Here's what's about to happen, and you can set your watch to this, because it happens every single time America goes to war. First, they're going to ramp up military recruitment in Black and brown communities. You're going to see those commercials. You know the ones. Inspiring music, images of brotherhood, promises of college tuition, job training, a way out of poverty. They're going to make it look like the military is your only option for economic advancement. And for too many of our young people, given the systematic destruction of economic opportunities in our communities, it might actually look like the best option. That's not an accident. That's by design. They've spent decades disinvesting from Black neighborhoods, defunding our schools, eliminating job opportunities, and then they present the military as the solution to problems they created. It's diabolical, it's evil, and it works. Second, when this war escalates, and it will escalate, who do you think will be on the ground, bleeding? It won't be the children of Congress members. It won't be the kids from wealthy white suburbs. It'll be Jamal from Chicago, Darnell from Detroit, and Marcus from Memphis. Our sons and daughters will come back in caskets wrapped in flags, and they'll tell us they died heroes. And they were heroes, but they were heroes in a war that should never have been fought. Third, the economic devastation. Every dollar spent on this war is a dollar not spent on infrastructure in Black communities, not spent on education, not spent on healthcare, not spent on affordable housing. The national debt will balloon. It always does during war. And then when it's time to pay the bill, suddenly they'll discover they need to cut social programs. Food assistance, gone. Housing support, gone. Education funding, gutted. They always find money for bombs, but never for books. And let me tell you what else happens. Oil prices spike, gas prices go up, inflation accelerates, and the cost of living increases. Who gets hit hardest by inflation? Poor and working class people. Disproportionately, Black and brown communities. We're always the first to feel the economic pain of these imperial adventures. How many times are we going to fall for this? How many times are we going to watch this exact same movie play out? They did it with Vietnam, sold us a lie about dominoes falling and communist threats. 58,000 Americans dead. Millions of Vietnamese dead. For what? The dominoes never fell. The threat was manufactured. But a lot of people got rich, and a generation of Black men came home traumatized or didn't come home at all. They did it with Iraq. Remember the weapons of mass destruction? Remember the mushroom clouds we were told would appear if we didn't act? All lies. Colin Powell stood in front of the United Nations, a Black man giving credibility to white lies, and showed us evidence that turned out to be fabricated. 1 million Iraqis dead, thousands of Americans dead, trillions of dollars wasted, and we're still dealing with the consequences 20 years later. They did it with Libya, told us about humanitarian intervention and responsibility to protect, turned one of the most prosperous African nations into a failed state with open-air slave markets. Slave markets. In 2011. And where was the outrage? Where was the accountability? Now it's Iran's turn, and they're using the same playbook. Different country, same lies, same propaganda, same predictable outcome. And Black people keep signing up to fight these wars, keep waving the flag, keep believing that somehow this time it's different. This time it's legitimate. This time it's necessary. When are we going to learn? Let me educate you on some things the media conveniently leaves out of their coverage. Iran hasn't invaded another country in over 200 years. Let that sink in. 200 years. Meanwhile, the United States has been at war for 93% of its existence. We've invaded or bombed dozens of countries. We have military bases in over 70 countries. We spend more on our military than the next 10 countries combined. But Iran is the threat? Iran is the aggressor? Please. Here's what Iran actually is. A country sitting on some of the world's largest oil and gas reserves that refuses to let Western corporations control its resources. A country that trades oil in currencies other than the dollar, threatening American financial hegemony. A country that supports regional resistance movements against Israeli expansion. A country that won't bow down to American diktat. That's their real crime. Not terrorism, not nuclear weapons, which, by the way, U.S. intelligence agencies have repeatedly confirmed Iran is not developing. Their crime is independence. Their crime is sovereignty. Their crime is refusing to be a puppet state, and for that, they must be destroyed. But here's what really gets me. Black people, of all people, should understand what it's like to be demonized. We know what it's like to be portrayed as threats, as violent, as dangerous. We know what it's like to have our humanity stripped away by propaganda. We know what it's like to have lies told about us to justify our oppression. So why do we fall for it when they do it to others? I'm going to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. You have a moral obligation to oppose this war. Not just to be vaguely against it in principle, but to actively, vocally, consistently oppose it. Your silence is consent. Your apathy is complicity. Your distraction is exactly what they're counting on. Here's what you need to do. First, educate yourself. Stop getting your news from corporate media outlets that are owned by the same people who profit from war. Seek out independent journalists, alternative perspectives, historical context. Understand that everything they tell you is filtered through the lens of empire. Second, talk to your community. Have these conversations. Yes, they're uncomfortable. Yes, people might call you unpatriotic or conspiracy-minded. Say it anyway. Plant seeds. Make people think. Because the only way this stops is if enough people refuse to go along with it. Third, organize. Join anti-war movements. Show up to protests. Call your representatives. Even though most of them are bought and paid for, they need to know that people are watching. Make noise. Be ungovernable. Make it politically costly to support this war. Fourth, and this is crucial, talk to young people. If you know a young black man or woman considering military service, have a real conversation with them. Not a judgmental one, but an honest one. Show them the statistics on PTSD, on veteran homelessness, on suicide rates, on inadequate VA care. Show them how the promises of the recruiter often turn into the reality of being discarded once you're no longer useful. I'm not saying the military is never an option. I'm saying people should make that choice with full information, not based on slick marketing campaigns that hide the true cost. This Iran war is part of something larger. It's part of an American empire in its death throes, lashing out violently as it loses its grip on global dominance. It's part of a system that requires constant war to sustain itself. It's part of a ruling class that will sacrifice infinite lives to maintain their power and wealth. And black people will continue to be collateral damage in this system unless we wake up and build independent power. Unless we start thinking strategically about our collective interest instead of being distracted by individual advancement within a dying empire. Malcolm told us we were victims of Americanism, not communism or any other ism. He told us we needed to see our struggle in global context. He told us we had more in common with oppressed people around the world than with our oppressors at home. Muhammad Ali refused to go to Vietnam because he understood that no Viet Cong ever called him the N-word. He understood that his real enemies weren't in rice paddies in Southeast Asia. They were in boardrooms and government buildings in America. We need that same clarity now. The Iranian people are not your enemy. They're not a threat to you. They don't control the systems that oppress you. They're not the ones who redline your neighborhoods, underfund your schools, or fill your communities with police. Your enemy is right here, wearing a suit, speaking English, waving an American flag, and telling you that bombing people on the other side of the world will somehow make you safer. Don't believe the hype. Not this time. Not ever again. This war has officially begun, but it's not too late to oppose it. It's not too late to refuse to participate. It's not too late to tell the truth. Black people, we have to do better. We have to be smarter. We have to stop being foot soldiers for an empire that has never loved us. The Iran war has begun. The question is, what side of history will you be on?